Dr. Adrian Graves had always been known as one of the most skilled forensic pathologists in the city. A man of precision, intelligence, and charm, he had a reputation that was beyond reproach. But behind the cold steel doors of the city morgue, he harbored a dark, perverse secret. His fascination with death had twisted into something vile, something he had managed to keep hidden for years. The women who arrived on his autopsy table, young and beautiful, were more than just corpses to him. In the solitude of the morgue, under the dim glow of the autopsy lights, Adrian indulged in his darkest desires. He justified his acts with a twisted sense of entitlement, whispering to himself that the dead felt nothing, knew nothing. It was his secret, and no one would ever find out. One fateful night, a body was wheeled into the morgue, covered in a white sheet. The report read, "Victim, Emily Carter, age 24. Cause of death, accidental drowning." Adrian smirked, the same way he always did when he saw the name of a young woman on his slab. He removed the sheet, revealing a stunning face framed by long, dark hair. Her skin was pale yet flawless, her lips still a soft pink. Her lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling as if accusing him of something. He dismissed the feeling and set to work, but tonight, something was different. The air in the morgue felt thick, suffocating. The shadows in the corners seemed darker than usual. He shook off the unease and moved toward her body, but as he touched her cold skin, a whisper filled the room. His breath hitched. He looked around, but he was alone. The security cameras were off, just as he had arranged. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigeration units. A shiver ran down his spine. His fingers trembled over the scalpel. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, shaking his head. "A trick of the mind." But then Emily's hand twitched. Adrian stumbled back, knocking over a tray of surgical tools. His heart pounded against his ribs. "It's just post-mortem spasms," he reassured himself. "Nothing more." Yet, deep inside, he knew better. He had seen countless corpses. This wasn't natural. He turned to leave, deciding he needed a break. But as he reached for the door, it slammed shut on its own. The sound echoed through the empty corridors. Panic clawed at his chest. Then came a soft, sickening giggle. He spun around to find Emily's body sitting upright on the slab. Her head tilted slightly, her lifeless eyes now locked onto his. But something was terribly wrong. Her lips were moving. "Did you think we wouldn't know, Doctor? Did you think we wouldn't remember?" Adrian let out a strangled cry. "This isn't real. You're dead." He grabbed a scalpel, his hands shaking uncontrollably. "You're not alive." Emily smiled, a grotesque, knowing smile. "Oh, we know, Adrian. We know everything you've done. Every touch, every violation, every whisper." Suddenly, the morgue doors burst open, and the cold air howled through the room. The lights flickered violently, and shadows spilled from the corners, twisting and writhing like ink in water. Then came the voices. Hundreds of voices. Familiar voices. "You thought we wouldn't feel it, Adrian? You thought we wouldn't come back?" Figures emerged from the darkness. Women, all of them. Some had bloated faces from drowning, others had the marks of strangulation or decay. Their milky eyes bore into him, their mouths curling in ghostly rage. Adrian backed away, pressing himself against the cold steel of the autopsy table. "No, This isn't real. This can't be real. Emily stood from the slab, her movements unnatural, jerky, like a puppet on broken strings. She stepped toward him, her cold fingers brushing his cheek. "You always like to touch, Doctor. Let us return the favor." And then they were on him. Cold hands grasped at his flesh, pulling, tearing, violating his very soul. He screamed, a sound that would have shattered glass had anyone been there to hear it. But no one ever would. The next morning, the hospital janitor arrived for his routine shift. He found the morgue doors wide open, the room filled with an eerie silence. Dr. Adrian Graves sat slumped against the autopsy table, his hair stark white, his face frozen in a mask of sheer, unrelenting terror. His eyes were wide, glassy, lifeless. They took him away, declaring him unfit for work. He was transferred to Blackwood Asylum, where he spent the rest of his days mumbling incoherently about watching eyes and cold hands. He never spoke a full sentence again. And at night, in the dimly lit corridors of the asylum, the nurses swore they could hear whispers from the shadows, soft, feminine voices calling his name. "Dr. Graves, we see you, we feel you, and we will never let you forget."